Hey everybody, welcome back to me ranking every single unit in Wargame Red Dragon. I think, did I say that correctly? I think I did. Part 5, I believe, when it comes to planes. Probably the penultimate part. I assume I'm not gonna be able to finish this with this video, but there's probably gonna be one more for the planes. Before I get into it, there was one, or actually two comments saying essentially the same thing last time about the North Korean F-7B having essentially the SC-25 or 25K or 25T gun without AP rounds, which is nice and all. In reality, this means, well, it's a HE only gun that has increased range versus ground targets. I guess it's not really too bad if you wanna shoot at some 1 or 0 armor targets, but in reality, I don't see it being particularly useful. I don't think either of the commenters meant this as like oh, this is so important, right? They probably were also, this was meant more in the sense of, hey, the more you know, and yeah, the more you know. But now, in case you weren't aware already, like I was, you are aware. Yeah. I think what we have left is Yugoslavia, Finland, Scandinavia, as well as Israel and the Netherlands. I think those are the, well, I guess 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decks or coalitions that we have left. So yeah, last time we left off with Blue Dragons, so let's do some Red 4 stuff, shall we? Alright, let me pull up the tier list. There we go. Planes. Not even that many to choose from. Maybe we will actually get a lot further than I thought. Avia 28. I'm not gonna talk about this whole survivability of this as well as the B5 again, not just because of the 15 HP, but of course the flight height as well. If you wanna hear my comment about that, just go to the previous video, part 4, where I talk about the B5. Essentially, this is a worse but cheaper B5 with a smaller bomb, but also 2 per card. It's okay. Like it can get it can get the job done. That's it. But you know, just like the B5, if the enemy has any radar AA, it's very easy to kill. Against non-radar AA, not that easy. But you know, the payload isn't really too bad. But the other issue is of course bombs. The single bomb is relatively easy to evade because the plane flies so high. So you know, you have a lot more time, and the plane itself isn't that fast either. Absolute meme of a plane. Abysmal AP, abysmal accuracy, abysmal range, semi-active, no ECM, incredibly slow, incredibly low time over target, and not really the best veterancy. You have to keep in mind this is, I believe, 3 per card, and this is 4 downweighted because of the Finnish availability bonus, which I believe is 25 or 30%, given that you get 4 and not 3. Oh no, you get 3 downweighted. So it's probably 20%. Yeah, it can't be 15, so it has to be 20. Because I believe Baltic might be 15. In any case, 20%, so this is 3 and this is 4. In any case, I mean, you know, as always, if you want to meme around with some stupid ass planes, you know, I'm not gonna stop you, but just be aware that it's just bad. Hawk 51. Incredibly good plane. It is of course not as strong in team games as most low-end fighters or planes are, but on lower player counts as well as wider maps for team games where anti-air is not as saturated. Incredibly strong plane. While it does have only 10% ECM, and it's only 60 points, it is incredibly fast and has a good turn radius, so the survivability is a bit better than it might think. It's not amazing, but like not quite as bad as it looks. Has some surprisingly acceptable multi-role capabilities. You're rarely gonna like kill a full HP healer like a tiger or something, but you have very good chances to like deal some damage. And for 60 points, you know, given that you also have like 2 decent bombs for the price, not too bad. Essentially, this is like a J7C but better, right? Let's actually just compare these two. J7C, which I already said is like, you know, decent, especially if you can get the plane train going. Or for 10 points less, you have significantly better survivability. You are a bit slower, but 100 km/h, not that big of a deal. But you have ECM and you have a much better turn radius. The gun it's not a twin Aiden, so it's not a Vulcan stat clone. Gun is worse. The J7 actually has a Vulcan stat clone, rate of fire wise that is. Essentially you have half the rate of fire with the Hawk, actually a bit better than half, but virtually half. And some slightly, actually not necessarily worse short range missiles. Why not necessarily worse? Because they have a shot interval of, or like a reload time of 1 second, they have 2 seconds. Which means that in the past you can sometimes get 2 of these off, whereas the J7C can get 1 off only. And with its turn radius and with the fact that it has no ECM, you're probably not going to circle around to get a second missile off anyway. So the R60 might actually be a bit better in this scenario than the PL5. And of course, you cost 10 points less, while being essentially, practically speaking, better. Actually, let's just do Baltic Front and turn off Polish paints, and we see this without the availability bonus, or with only 10% availability bonus. You can't up it, but it's of course irrelevant. But being cheaper and significantly more survivable compared to the J7C, honestly, a whole 2 tiers up. Like the J7C is already on the upper part of the C tier, I'd say. J35S, I don't remember if I've ever seen this plane. Don't get me lied, the Drakens do look sick. I do like how they look. Yeah, I put the Hawk in an A tier, by the way. I actually kind of like how the Drakens look. You only get it on veteran, not elite. You have only 35% base accuracy on these. I mean, you're only 85 points, don't get me wrong, but only 35% base accuracy. You actually get AIM-9Ls as your SRAMs, which is pretty good. But literally no ECM. I think if you came on elite, it'd be much better. How much? But like 35% base accuracy. You do get 3 per card at veteran instead of like 2 on veteran or 2 on elite, which, you know, not too bad, actually. I'm actually tough. I think this might be better than it looks. Because again, having 3 per, like, you know, of course you prefer, especially at this price range, elite over veteran. But I think most other planes in this price range you only get 2 up at it anyway, right? So if I had to choose between 2 elite and 3 veteran, which you'd never really have the choice, but you know, assuming this came on elite, maybe it came on 2 per card instead. Given how affordable this plane is, 3 veteran might actually be very good. You don't have any ECM and you have really horrible time over target. You have enough let me actually take a close look at the missile stats. Given how rare this missile is, it might have some wacky stats. Let's compare this to like the... Yeah, and compare this to the 85-point North Korean MiG-23 ML, which is also 85 points, but comes 3 on hardened. But let me actually take a look at missile stats compared to... Let's compare this to something like a Sparrow, right? Like an AIM-7. You can't see this right now, but... the AIM-7M used by the F-15A Eagle. Yeah, perfectly normal. 15,000 maximum speed, 1,000 acceleration. Pretty normal. Aim time, yep, 0.2. Completely normal stats. Whoops. But like I said, if you compare this to the North Korean MiG-23 ML, which is already pretty bad, but comes only on hardened. Right. Get this off again. These have 5% more base accuracy. Okay. The short range missiles have less range, but you get 10% ECM. How does the veterancy change the accuracy? So the Finnish J35 has an effective accuracy of 48% on the long-range missiles, just like the MiG-23 ML also has effectively 48%. Short-range missiles of 50% change to 66 on the Finnish one and 60 on the North Korean one. But the ML has ECM. The ML also has 2 long range or medium range and 4 short range, and vice versa on the J-35, though I don't think it really matters that much. In one engagement, you don't get more than 2 of anyway of these, and neither do you get more than 2 of there. It's not that relevant in my eyes. So what would I rather have, right? 10% extra ECM, or what was it? 6% extra accuracy on the short range missiles? Good question. Also, better time on target, but worse turn radius. I'm more starting to think that maybe I slightly underrated the MiG-23 ML. But for the time being, let's put this down here. J-35F, this thing, as far, let's, you know what, let's just test it. I always, some things like these I always forget because I never use this plane anyway. But as far as I understand, this plane still doesn't drop its whole payload in one go. Which is a huge deal. Let's see. Right? Because not only does it mean you don't get all the bombs off, but unless you have, you micro it, it doesn't evac either, right? Alright, let's just test this. Fire position here, and then fire position here, and then give like a shift fire position there. Maybe that'll make it drop its bombs. Also, they're actually 500 kilogram bombs. Let's see. Yep, it drops 4. Let's give fire position here. It has reload! Wow, there's reload for like 2 seconds or something. This is, oh my, it's not like, not even with proper micro could you like immediately drop the second salvo. It has reload for like, let me check the stats. This is even worse than I thought. It's a reload for 4 seconds. 5 seconds, sorry. My goodness. Like, oops. Poor plane. Poor plane. I mean, if it wasn't for that, it'd actually be a pretty decent napalm plane. It's fast, it has good payload. Yes, it has no ECM, but like, compared it to the Polish Su-7, and it's like 150 km faster, which I take that any day of the week, and also cheaper, I think. But yeah, just because of that. Because the thing is, even if you imagine this having only 4 bombs instead, right? It might not be that horrible because at least it's fast, but you still have to micro it. J-35FS. And not the worst, whoopsie, I forgot again. I put this in the D tier. And not the worst helo hunt, like multi-roll, but like 25% base accuracy on this. It's pretty rough, but it's like a very fast, acceptable payload rocket pop plane. And you even get 4 of them. No ECM though. And those missiles do have a reload time of 1 second, just like the R-60s, but like horrendous base accuracy. Honestly, though, not too bad. You wouldn't use this as like helo hunting, but like it's very fast, and every now and then it might get like a hit on. And don't forget, against helicopters, you do get range scaling. MiG-21F-13. Good rocket pop plane. It has acceptable rockets, it's a 3HE, lots of them, you can split them, I believe. You have some ECM, you're fast. Yeah. Just yet another, like most rocket pop planes are just fine, right? They're more or less like, because it's pretty rare that like one rocket pod plane will kill something and that another rocket plane wouldn't. Rocket pod plane. There's only a few exceptions to that. One of them is the Polish MiG-21 MF. That's like kind of special. Most of the time though, against like most 2 and 3 armor targets, any rocket pod plane would have gotten the kill except for like the very low end ones and carry only very few missiles. And like I said, like the MiG-21 MF. And then the only other differences are really, do you have any other extra capabilities? Do you have ECM? Are you fast? Do you have good turn radius, you know? MiG-21 BIS, part of the, I guess it's a trinity, the MiG-21 BIS Lazur, the L-17K, and now this. I think the L-17K has 20% ACM, but you get 3 on veteran instead. The Lazur has 10%, but you also get 3 on veteran or something. The veterancy is not complete, like they don't all have the same veterancy, etc. And of course different missiles. But this one has the highest ACM. 30% is actually quite a lot, especially for 90 points. You also get 2 sets of missiles. You also get the R60s that have a 1 second reload time. Yeah. AIM 9E, which is pretty low end, but 4 HE at least. But like I said, compared to the Lazur and the L-17K, you have the 30% ECM. The Lazur is in 8 here. Let me briefly check again. And Lazur is 3 on veteran. Only difference is the, except for, so for 10 points more, you come at 1 low veterancy step for the same availability or 1 higher for better, lower availability. And for 10 points more, you get 20% ECM, which is a lot, and of course 10% lower accuracy on the second set of missiles. I think in most scenarios I would prefer the Lazur, because you can get 3 of them and it's still going to be very consistent. However, the Finnish one has the 30% ECM, which means against like medium tier ASFs and stuff like that, it'll actually be a significant threat. And it'll just not die as easily to AA, of course. This is obviously S tier, one of the most bullshit planes in the game. Just double tap and watch planes die while you already evac before they can even hit you. I don't want to be like the kind of like, oh, look it up yourself, but I hope that at this point I don't need to explain why this is so good, but I'm gonna do it anyway because, you know, there's always new players. On paper, this doesn't look that crazy, right? Only 2 missiles, no like gun, no other missiles, and nothing else. But there's one thing that these missiles don't show. Contrary to like these missiles, which are, you know, basically the same as R-77s, they essentially get fired at once, or like virtually at once. There's like a tiny time of like, I don't know. Let me actually check so I can give you the proper number. Of 0.4 seconds, with an interval of 0.4 seconds, they both get shot, right? Sorry. With the interval of 0.4 seconds, both missiles get shot. And then you can evac. Combine this with the fact that this comes on Elite, 2 per card. Basically, with the exception of like these super high and expensive ASFs, the only medium range fire and forget missiles that you can get on Elite for this price, and 2 per card. You have very good ECM, you're fast, you have good air detection, good turn radius, so you fire these out, immediately evac. Which means that for one, to get 2 missiles out, even if you ignore the veterancy for now, to get 2 missiles out, you don't have to fly nearly as deep into the enemy AA as other ASFs would, right? If you take a look at the F-18C or like KWS, F-16C, blah blah blah. What's the number? They have to reload for a whole second before they can turn away. Might not seem like much, but it's more than twice as long. No, sorry, 2 seconds. 2 seconds, which is 5 times as long. I misread this. They have to reload for 2 seconds before they can, you know, get their second missile out. And comparing it with the fact that you're 110 points, have the exact same accuracy as something like this, assuming it comes on elite. You get 2 of them. Essentially, they're safe to use because they can immediately evac, and they have ECM even if there are plenty of missiles coming at you. Incredibly accurate and affordable, right? It's just, yeah. F-18C, it's your typical high-end ASF. It's a bit different than the others. It's the only one with 400 turn radius. It's the only one that has actually this missile loadout of only 2 SRAMs and 6 AMRAMs. Most other have either 4 and 6 or 4 and 4 or 6 and 4, but this is 2 and 6. But like, essentially, it's more or less performs more or less the same as like the Eurofighter, F-15C Eagle, you name it. So yeah, that's Finland. Let's go back to blue and let's say Scandinavia, right? Do they have an availability bonus? They do. What's the base availability on this? Let's see, this is 8. So you get at least 10%. This is probably 20, so it's probably 15%. Oh my god, the Lansen. The Lansen, which is the only plane that has different accuracy in stabilizer on its gun, for God knows what reason. Obviously irrelevant, but those are actually quad. What's the rate of fire on that thing? Oh, it's just a Vulcan set clone essentially. Okay. But yeah, it's a very slow nose reliability, really horrible time on target napalm plane. I'm sorry, buddy. Viggen. It's actually pretty sad if you compare this to the Peace Shrine, right? The Peace Shrine for the same price has 10% less ECM. Okay. Has 4 significantly better SRAMs with the AIM-9Ls that have 50% accuracy. Although they only have a 2-second reload time, but still at this point it's significantly better. Its missiles have more range and more accuracy, 3,325 and 50%, and it has a Vulcan, and it comes 2 unhardened. So yeah, if it had better availability like the Peace Shrine, it'd be fine. But now it's just It's just Or compare this to the Peace Pheasant, that it gets 4 of these missiles and comes on better veterancy. The big bad boy of cluster bombers. If this thing hits, it'll murder any tank. Assuming you hit at the center of the assuming the tank is at the center of like the bombs. Yeah, with 10 AP hitting top armor, it's like a truck. But of course, the area of effect isn't that big, so you don't have a lot of not a lot of margin to play with, not a lot of room for error when dropping this. So you have to be more or less dead on, and not that hard if there's the enemy tank is reversing and there's not many places it can reverse. Meaning, if you don't spot it, you know roughly where it is. Like in bigger forests, or when you don't really know the line of sight, or you have only spotted it like 15 seconds ago, you have to be really lucky. And yeah, the thing is with cluster bombers, in most scenarios, not all of them, but I feel like in most scenarios they're best suited to finish stuff off, right? Finish off enemy damage tanks that are reversing because they're damaged, as opposed to trying to kill near or full HP tanks. Of course, sometimes you have to do that, or there's just a good opportunity to even do that, or you just have to scare off the enemy, enemy tank by damaging it, and then even though you have nothing, they reverse or like retreat because they fear if they continue pushing with the damaged tank, they might get killed, stuff like that. But I think they're best suited for finishing off already damaged tanks when they're in a smoke cloud or something. And that's just harder to do with this, because when you do that, you have to guess a bit. And if you have to guess, then you prefer a larger area of effect with less damage than a small area of effect with big damage or lots of damage. So yeah, this is, don't get me wrong, if it hits, oh baby, it's gonna hurt. But it's just significantly harder to hit with this. Still though, I'm gonna put this in the same tier as the American Aardvark, which I consider the best cluster bomber in the game, because at the end of the day, it's really not that bad that I would put it in C tier. This is absolute dog shit because the missiles don't do anything, they don't hit, and if they hit fucking front armor, and 10 HE front armor, worthless against tanks, and you know, sure you can one-shot infantry if you hit, but good luck hitting, and even then against 4 towns they don't. So yeah, this is an absolute. Did I just write the name of the fucking missile? Sorry. There we go. Draken WDNS is actually a solid HE bomber. Acceptable payload, even though it's not the best pattern. It's a fairly long and narrow pattern, and fairly close together with all the bombs, which you don't really prefer. But it's 6 bombs, fast, good ECM. Honestly, not that bad. Not that bad. Did I put the IDS in C tier? I did. There's the IDS. I'm actually willing to put this into B tier. I generally don't really use this because I think Scandi offers better planes. But if I wanted an HE bomber, Draken WDNS, maybe not on Scandi, but in Lansen would be my choice. F-100D. Now it has a lot of rockets, as you can see. Twice as many as the Finnish MiG-21 that we had earlier. And I think the same one as well with the 3HE. It's not that fast, but in this case it can sometimes be a nice boon because it means you can really split that salvo. You can hit like 3 different targets with these rocket pods if they're close enough together in a single like gun run, which is actually pretty cool. It used to be actually seen quite often when rocket pod planes were sort of meta. These days, of course, not so much, but you know, still decent. Starfighter. So this is this is probably best suited as a helo hunter, in a sense that if the enemy helo decides to land, because you see your Starfighter coming, you just cluster it, in which case it'll die. It has, of course, a Vulcan, AIM-9s, good speed to make good use of the Vulcan. Triple card done with it, so the AIM-9s is not going to be that accurate, unfortunately. But I mean, it is only 60 points as well, so honestly, if you want a helo hunter, there are worse options in Wargame. It's actually another F-104G with that name. Yes, there's 2 with that exact name, so... CF-104, it has some ECM, it has the same payload as Lansen, but ECM ends a bit faster. Has more time over target, I should say. And of course, I mean, it has a Vulcan, but like... I might be a bit inconsistent with some of the napalm planes, but whatever. F-16A Block 5, even though it is in most scenarios a worse aardvark, more or less just as good. It has 10% ECM, but it is a bit cheaper, and it has a set of AIM-9Ls, so it can be decent against hunting planes if you have to. It combined with the fact that it has a Vulcan, and I think it also has a better turn radius, but like 12 cluster bombs, essentially the best cluster bomb loadout you can have, you know. I like that is currently in the game, I should say. So yeah, Block 15. Very good ASF. 2 on elite. Set of missiles that both have at least 5 HE, so any combination of 2 hitting will kill a plane. 30% ECM. Vulcan, good turn radius, fast, good time over target. That's really not much more to say. I think I went over the fact that ASFs coming on elite is very strong, especially if they're 2 per card. That the fact that this is very good. So apparently there's another Block 15. Is it a naval plane? Oh no, it's not. Oh, it is. MLU. strong plane. You can there's no real right way to go about the veterancy. You can run it both, or like either trained or lead if you want to. Sorry. Because if you want, I mean, the thing with this is, of course, it has like 4 medium range missiles, which means it can be quite a threat to planes as well. So you might think, I want to use this on elite to, you know, because in plane engagements, the dexter accuracy, you know, obviously decides it's the difference between life and death. But of course, it is on the other end, it's an anti-tank plane, and pretty much the only good ATGM plane that Scandi or Denmark has access to. So maybe you want to use 2. In which case, though, it's not that good against planes, and if it has to engage planes, it's more likely to die. So it really depends on you, right? If you think you depend on this as like a tank killer, then I would suggest you might want to run 2. Especially with the Block 15, as good as it is, once again, not really a full HP tank killer as something like an ATGM plane. And in that's what I do, actually. And I just use the MLU as like a second line ASF, right? If I already have this and you know I want to kill a plane with my planes, I get an F-16 Block 15, run that out, and behind that Block 15, I run the MLU. So if they engage my ASF, well, the MLU is essentially going to get 3 missiles off. If they go for my MLU, there's a good chance that the Block 15 will be able to finish off before the MLU gets finished off. So yeah, no real right way to go. It's really dependent on you. And I mistyped that. Fighting Falcon, very good bomber. One of the best AG bombers in the game that isn't ridiculously OP. Kernas, yeah, it's just a very solid bomber. It's fast, it has decent turn radius, acceptable ECM, not really good, but it's acceptable. Payload is very good, it's 2 per card, affordable, and has some aim 9s if you know, you need them. Not much more to say, it's just very, very, very decent. F-16A. This is essentially the American Block 52, but for 10 points less, and the same veterancy, which is more important than being cheaper, right? You get worse second set of missiles. You get aim 9Ls instead of aim 9Ms, which means 4 HE instead of 5, and that's actually a big deal, because it means hits of aim 9 and aim 120 won't kill. And then the gun has to finish off, which means more time for the enemy plane to kill you as well. Is that a reason to put it only in B instead of A tier? Honestly, I don't think so. I'm uncertain. Because it actually happens not that rarely that in plane engagements, my planes sometimes just get out with 1 HP because of, you know, 4+5 HE shenanigans on the missiles. It's tough for me to say. I'm really not certain on this. Like, at the end of the day, the A120s, which are more important, have the exact same accuracy on a Block 52, and you have the exact same number, you have the same ECM as well, you have the same gun. The only difference is 10 points less and 10% less accuracy, 10% less accuracy and 1 less HE on the missiles. And yeah, it's not just given that it's also 10% lower accuracy on the aim 9s. I think I'm actually putting this on a whole tier lower. This is very high B tier, but I think this is more noticeable than it might look like. Freedom Fighter, rocket pop plane, quite a few. You only get 8 of them, and you only have 3 per card. But like, you're 50 points. Whatever. Puff used to be like the meta seatplane in 1v1s, because in 1v1s, you know, seat not that important, but the puff being also like an excellent helo hunter. This gun is a Vulcan stat clone, it has AIM-9Ls, acceptably good ECM. I mean, for a seatplane, not that amazing, but for 80 points, it's pretty good. Good speed for hunting helos, and it's really that the seat missiles were like a nice bonus. This was, for a decent time, more of a helo hunter and less of a seatplane. Nowadays, maybe not so much. I think especially in team games, it's a bit frustrating that you have no seatplane that is either faster or at least a stealth or better missiles. Like, these are the worst missiles, seat missiles that you can have. Lowest range that any seat missile has, lowest accuracy. I mean, the AP doesn't really matter, but range and accuracy. So low-ish speed, no stealth, and no range means that in terms of killing radar, this is actually one of the worst seatplanes in the game, if not the worst. I think the Israeli Ayid or whatever it's called is probably worse. I think it has the same missiles, but like even the Czech Su-7 has more range on its missiles. But of course, it is like a very, very good helo hunter. That's why I'm gonna put this in B tier, because you get both the seatplane and the helo hunter, right? And it means that that's especially like having, you know, essentially stoning two birds at once is incredibly valuable in the plane tab, because the plane slots are so costly and valuable. You know, let's say this is not as big of a deal as your anti-tank helo also having AA missile suddenly, right? It's, for the sake of the argument, it's not as big of a deal as if the Apache also had stingers now or something like that, right? But on this thing, very, very important. Draken, this is one of those rocket pod thingy magics again. You get a buttload of them. I think 6 downweighted, 6, 5, 4, and 3 probably is the veterancy, if I had to guess. I mean, this, given how fast it is, and that you still get through on elite, I'm gonna actually put this in C tier. Because I said it last time as well with the Czech plane that we had. They can actually do some serious damage if they hit it. Given how many you fire, there's actually a good chance you will hit. So, and you know, given how cheap it is, you can also just use it as a plane scout. Or you just use this, which is honestly probably better. You get 1 lower on veteran or on elite, or you just get 3 on hard instead. But you get some decent rocket pods as well. And then we have this one, which is probably the only, is this actually the only Blue 4 plane that has 2 sets of SRAMs? Essentially Blue 4 version kind of a Lazur, but only 25% base accuracy, while also being 3 on veteran. Of course, a 5 points cheaper than Lazur, but 25% base accuracy is horrendous. You do have only 1 second reload time, but this is actually significantly worse than the Lazur. 25% is just really not a lot. Give a look at the 1 second. Zur, what does it have on its missiles? It has 40% on both, right? Yes. And then having 15% lower accuracy, which on veteran is essentially a 20% 19% accuracy difference, right? 15% base accuracy difference, right? 25 versus 40. This on veteran translates to 35% accuracy, whereas the 40% on veteran translates to 54. So yeah, that's a massive difference. Especially on the missile, that is arguably more important because it has only 1 second reload time. You do get 1 more HE on the missile, but I don't honestly, that's not worth it. And you only have 30% ECM and no ECM. The Viggen is a 6+4 plane. It's actually very similar to the Tornado F2. Same ECM. The RB71, does the Tornado F2 already have its 60% accuracy? It does not. So the missile, the long-range missile, is the same on the Viggen. Although the Viggen only gets 2, the Tornado gets 4, but that's honestly not a big of a deal. The short-range missile, the Tornado has the AIM-9Ls, which means 10% more accuracy. Which is, of course, a lot. And it has 350 meters more range. And of course, both have 30% ECM. But I think the 10% lower accuracy and less range, just like the AIM-9M and the AIM-9L earlier. No, AIM-9L has the full range, but AIM-9, the accuracy difference on the short-range missiles here, it's quite a deal. You get 4 instead of 2, and again, 2 and 4, 4 and 2, and these are semi-active. Pretty irrelevant anyway in my eyes. But I think especially on the cheap planes, it's a lot more common that you get into the short-range missile range. So that means they become more important than they would be on the high-end ASFs. But it's very solid ASF. Gripen, this is essentially the same thing as the F-16AM, except for the fact that the F-16AM has a better gun. It's a Vulcan, whereas the Gripen does not. And I'm pretty sure that this is not a Vulcan stat clone. It is indeed not. But I mean, other than that, it's... And the F-16AM has a bit more fuel for a bit more time over target, but yeah. This is absolute dog shit. It used to be amazing, but now it hits front armor, is active. It's useless. You can do some really memey stuff. You may have seen it on a recent Cell 17 video, 10 vs 10 replay that he casted, where someone opened with like a bunch of them, and like, I don't fully remember, I haven't done this in a long time, I only did this in some tests. You can fire precision this to essentially hit a target on the other side of the map. I think you have to, you just have to know roughly what the distance is, and then it just will hit the 20 kilometers further away into the ground. But what you can essentially do is from your air spawn on Mudfight, essentially hit the road of just in front of the enemy spawn. So this is like a pseudo MLRSing the enemy road, except it's much harder to direct, but also a lot less potent, I reckon. So you can do some meme stuff with that. If I remember, maybe I'll link it in the comments. But other than that, this is garbage. And like I said, this is front. If you hit the unit directly, like right click on a unit with this is front armor. This is not a laser guided bomb. It used to be, but not anymore. So even if it hits a tank, it's not going to do anything unless you hit it from the rear. So for 15 points more, you get one more bomb, and you lose your ECM. My god, this is a really sad plane. Holy moly. And then we have this, which is just plain old Helo Hunter. I think it can hardly get more simple than that. For 60 points, you get AIM-9Ls, solid. Vulcan, solid. No ECM though. Yeah, I think there's not much more to say. Is there another plane with a name? Yes. There's a Norwegian one. Is it a naval plane? No, it's not. I just did it earlier. There. Okay. That's Scandi done. I was gonna say, oh, it feels much more quicker than usually, but we're already 43 minutes in, Jesus. So yeah, let's do the last Red 4, which is Yugoslavia. Just do this so that not a lot of planes once again. J-22B Orao, 8 11D bombs. It is honestly a pretty abysmal payload. It is very cheap though, 70 points, and has some ECM. But like 8 11D bombs, it is so sad. I'm sorry. It is very sad. This is actually not too bad of a cluster plane. 6 AP bombs for 80 points, and while it's not amazingly fast, it has a decent ECM. There are worse planes. Yeah. I think if this was 1000 kmh or 900, it would be pretty good. But I don't think it's quite on par with like the other cluster planes, so I think it's a good bit worse. But if push comes to shove, there are many worse cluster planes in the game. Orao 2. I think most people are aware that this is actually really good, but barely anyone takes it because of the Galeb. That said, if the Galeb didn't exist, everyone used this and be happy. Really good. You get 200 lead on some B Mavericks, which 40% base accuracy on elite turns to 61% accuracy. Compare this to the 50% accuracy on the Peace Ride, which on hardened, which is the veterancy it comes, translates to 60%. So these missiles on this veterancy are on the high veterancy are virtually, except for the slightly low range, the same missiles you get on the Peace Ride with the veterancy. So this is essentially more survivable Peace Ride, and instead of AIM-9Ls, you get S5Ms. Which means that if you want to kill like an AA piece, you can more or less guarantee the kill unless you get stunned before, if it's like a Patriot or a Book'em 1 that outranges you and you get stunned before you can hit it. Or if you lose line of sight last second, you can fire position with this if you're good with the micro. Or, you just turn off the thing, fire position on the missile AA, then turn it on and then circle around to kill a tank or something like that. Lots of things you can do with this. That said, I think the Peace Run is probably still better because it's relative. It's not a huge deal, but it's something to be considered. The fact that it comes on hard means that by killing more, you can still vet up and get even more accurate, right? There's no room to grow for the Orao, not a big deal. But I'd say that honestly, I think in most scenarios, having the AIM-9s is more useful than the S5s. But other than that, and given that I might eat my own words, but yeah, I think this is S tier, but just not seen because the Galeb exists. Super Galeb. The Sejbr, funny little plane. I think the only one that has rocket pods that can shoot at literally any target. You can do some funny stuff with this, but in reality, it's maybe it's C tier, but it's just too memey. The Jastreb also has Browning that can't, like a gun that can't shoot at 2 armor targets. Has like napalm and like AT rockets that also leave napalm behind, which is kind of hilarious. And some normal rocket pods. But it's 70 points and it's pretty slow. And it's really the speed that makes it just like 70 points for that speed and no ECM. I'm still gonna give it C tier because I did 4 of it. But yeah, L12. Similar, I mean, it's like a very cheap, very fast airscope. Yeah, they're very similar plane with like the Red Dragons with the J7s they had and whatnot. So yeah, at 70k, a third of the Manage Lazur and the Finnish MiG-21 bis. This is the one that has only 2-second reload time missiles. But upgraded Molnias means 50% accuracy and 4G. You also have 20% ECM, which is just in between. You are also 90 points, but come on a veteran. It's essentially on the same level. It's really, honestly, preference. It's like a in between the MiG-21 bis and the Lazur, I'd say. L18. Essentially the Polish MiG-29, but for 5 points less, you lose 10% ECM. And honestly, that's not worth it. 10% ECM is a lot. I already think that the Polish MiG-29 is on the lower end of the A tier, so I'm gonna put the L-18 in B tier. If you wanna hear me talk about how good they like offensively, they're both the same, right? If it comes to accuracy in the missiles, it's the same. It's just that this gets hit more easily. And for 5 points, like 130 versus 135 points is nothing. And losing 1/4 of your ECM essentially, no thanks. L-19. Probably S tier, right? This is essentially the Block 52, but for the same price, you get 5% extra accuracy on your medium range missiles, on your MICAs. They are a tiny bit slower, but not a big deal. But like 5% accuracy, the effective, like this translates to 70 and 75% accuracy on hardened respectively. But I think for no cost, you lose the Vulcan, but that's who cares about the Vulcan. I actually think this is. I honestly think this is S tier. Is it? I don't know, man. No, I don't think so. I think it is a very high A tier. If the F-16AM is already a very high B tier, and I think the Block 52 is not that high in the A tier, and I don't think the L-19 is in a very high A tier. I'm not gonna say if you think this is S tier instead. I'm not gonna go no. I'm valid. I can see it being in both. L-15M. I used to really like this plane. These days, not so much. And actually, I can demonstrate it to you. Let me just go back to. This is the Baltic. There's one. This is not prototype, is it? It's not. I think that we can actually. I can show you what I mean. Just a second. All right. So let's fire position on this tree here, right? And then let's pay attention to when the planes evac. Evac around here, the J-7C. And the L-15M around here. This might not seem like a lot, but this means that the L-15M stays in range of enemy AA significantly longer. Because the bombs don't drop at the same... The tree is gone. Because the AA... I guess I can just select them at the same time and then give the same target. Because the cluster bombs and the HE bombs for the L-15M don't drop at the same time. They drop one after the other. Do they fly at different heights? Oh, the L-15M also flies lower. That explains another thing. Yeah, it flies lower than the J-7C, so it's even closer to AA. Because I was wondering, the L-15M just dies so quickly. And I wasn't actually aware of the flight height. I don't really check that very often. So that explains it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a good plane. But it's just less reliable than it might look like at first glance. And it does have decent ECM, especially for the price. And the payload is amazing for the price, don't get me wrong. But it's not quite as amazing as it might look like. I'm still gonna give it the easy B tier, which is it's still a good plane. Because it has J7C for 5 points more than a J7C. Okay, this is actually not fair. I think this is A tier, but you have to micro it. If you want I think, and I haven't actually thought about this before, but if you just bomb something willy-nilly where it's just IFVs and some infantry or something, or mainly infantry on soft targets, just turn off the cluster bombs and bomb HE only, I think. And only turn on the cluster bombs if there's like a tank or a vehicle where it's like very important you killed, or you're CV sniping, and I actually just want to test this, or you actually test this. Our position like here. But then again, there's still a difference with flight height. Oh, no, forget about it. You have to turn on, I mean, don't forget about it, but you have to turn off the gun as well. What's the flight height of the L-15M? 750 and J7, 1000. What about the Hawk 51? It's also 1000. Honestly, because of flight height, I'm actually gonna D-rank it to B tier again. That is a big deal for bombers like that. Lots of back and forth here. I can't really make my mind up, huh? Alright, Super Galeb, Napalm. Bad. Slow. Bad survivability. Nothing like it's bigger brother, the Super Galeb. It's just arguably the best anti-ATGM plane in the game. Arguably because you might say, well, Hornet has 4 30 AP missiles, or the 27M has 4 and it has medium range missiles as well, or A10 or the 25T, you know, they can do a lot more. But if you just want to kill a tank, there's given the price, I think it's just unrivaled. It is fast. It has 60% base accuracy on its missiles that have 30 AP, meaning you will double tap any tank. And it has 30% ECM, which is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it is pretty good. You can expect it to survive if the enemy only has like 1 proper radar APs or something like that. And it has a very good turn radius on top of that, 250, which is above average as well. Compared to the K-Hu that for I think 125 points has a bit more range on the missiles, which, don't get me wrong, is actually kind of nice. Actually, no, it doesn't. It's the same range, but like has it's like 300 km/h slower. It loses 1/3 of its speed, or if you want to talk the other way around, for 5 points more, the Galeb is 50% faster. It is ridiculous how amazing this plane is. Yeah, if you just want to remove a single tank, there's I think no other like proper tank, like heavy tank. Price for its prices, there's nothing that can come close to this. As good as the Hornet and the 27M and stuff like that are, they're also a lot more expensive. And yeah, that's it. That's it for today. We have, I believe, just Netherlands and Israel left. Last time we did these and these, as well as Red Dragons. We started with this. We did all the Commonwealth. We did Scandi today. We did Finland and Yugoslavia. We have done Eastern Bloc and we have done Soviet. So yeah, it's just these two left. And it's actually, yeah, this is actually worse than a PAF. 7 missiles, but even slower and still no stealth. But yeah, that's it for today. Hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Later!